Hello, this is Dread from Apprentice's Corner, and today's video topic is going to be about my crit Hail of Arrows build. I was looking at the Hail of Arrows tree, and I saw that there was an initial barrage, and I thought to myself, well, we do have Rain of Arrows in PoE, so Hail of Arrows with, obviously the initial barrage could just be like Rain of Arrows. Well, I was correct, but it's even spicier than that. Thanks to some nodes on the top of the Marksman tree that benefit you for having a high mana cost skill, like 80 plus mana cost skill, it allows you to make your Hail of Arrows do a lot of damage. So for instance, in the video, you're seeing a very low amount of damage in comparison to what I was doing before, but I modernized the build and theorycraft and, refined it, because before I was doing like 250, 300k crits on the dummy, but I wanted to make the build more realistic because you're utilizing some stupid stuff with black Quiver, as I'll go into later, but this is a lot more realistic version for the average player. It's very good at monolith farming as it's very quick. Rain of Arrows clears very fast, and it's pretty fast thanks to how shift works with acid flask. Now, you could go the damage over time route. To be honest, that might actually be better for some reason, for some specific reasoning that's all to get into, but mainly the crit version is, from what I've seen, better. Now, this does do the Ellie arrow stuff. You want shut up phone. You want elemental arrows here, because you deal a lot of damage with it, and you have you cap your Ellie res very strong overall. So we're gonna go into the build this time here. Let's go in. All right, here we are in game. This is Hail Mary, obviously, because a friend suggested that name. As you can see, I'm level 92, as I've been playing Arena a lot with this build, at least the full damage variant, but this is a very fast monolith farmer as well. So to level this build, you're going to want to run, where is it? Puncture here. So you're going to run the usual, kind of like how the mage does it with Glacier and the Gambler's Fallacy, except you're going to do it with Puncture. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go down here to Timing, then grab Stay of Execution. Puncture can be charged up, and you're going to run the bow version, so you get bow damage per second charge, so you get like 100% more damage automatically. Then you can get 200% more damage. Then obviously after that you just get more and more and more damage. Now the reason why this is so powerful is because we get the auto crit from what is it called? We get the auto crit from Gambler's Fallacy, and allows us to pretty much kill everything we need. Also, it's kind of fun to play around with, and that's how you're going to level the build. Everything else, you just want shift with movement speed. It's actually pretty simple to level Marksman, I found, all the way up until the point where you get to Hail of Arrows. Then after Hail of Arrows, you're going to want to obviously spec into this tree, which we are going to segue into the skills real quick here. So Hail of Arrows here, most important nodes, we get 5 points with volley for more area. This is very specific because the increased area from Hail of Arrows area is multiplied multiplicatively with volley, so this is very strong with that node at the top of Marksman. And of course we get the initial barrage. Now usually Hail of Arrows is just this little damage over time that we have, but the initial barrage is a hit which can crit, which is what we're based off of. Then we run one node into Silver Arrows to give us a little bit more crit chance, base crit. Eventually, when you get a much better weapon and bow and stats and all that, you could probably dump this node. And of course we go down here for focus, so that this also applies to our Sky Strike. By the way, our Sky Strike will be doing more damage thanks to focus. And then same thing with Pristine Fletcher, we're going to do more damage. And of course we turn it to fire, which is specific for later. And of course why I'm turning it to fire I'll explain later. And of course we have quick draw here, so that we have reduced mana cost, because without it we have a mana cost of like over 120, and that's very hard to sustain. So generally you want to be around like the 100-ish point. That's about where the sweet spot is. And then we have shift here. Shift is very strong for this, as we get the 40% more damage for the next skill after shifting. So the idea is to shift and then attack most of the time. And of course, we go for 1 node into head trauma to travel, 2 Brazuca's hesitation, so we get 30% even more damage after we've done it to give us even more damage. Now, of course, we go into 3 points into momentum for the movement speed buff, so that we can move faster while moving around the map. And of course, we go for swift recovery to recover all the mana that we use with shift. And we go for shadow slip and vulnerability while shifting. 1 point of travel through elusive, which, by the way, elusive does give us a lot of dex, even as long as we're stacking decks, obviously. And of course, we have Parting Gift and we have Arrival Gift. Now, this is important because Acid Flask is very nice in the way where Acid Flask has a chance to grant haste on use for a short duration. This is the most important part of this, is it allows us to run an unspecialized puncture for mana gain, as I'll explain later. But pretty much, yeah, that's all that matters with Acid Flask, is just to give us haste after we shifted. Everything else is not as useful other than maybe the frailty chance. That's about it. And of course we have the Smoke Bomb. Smoke Bomb is built mainly built for defensive capabilities. We have duration, 2 points in the starting area because I had an extra point. And of course, enfeeblement. Then we grab all 3 of the Silver Shroud stacks. Silver Shroud stacks are very strong as they allow us to dodge the next hit we get hit by for the next 3, because we get 3 Silver Shroud stacks. Very nice. Every single time we put down our smoke cloud, we get 3 of them for about, I don't know how long specifically, but it's very strong. And then of course we go up here to Shroud in Darkness, so that when we're sitting inside of the Smoke Bomb, we get Dust Shroud stacks. Dust Shroud stacks gives us dodge chance and chance for Glancing Blow here. It's a lot of our defenses, as it allows us to build dodge without actually building dodge. And of course we have Impending Gloom, so that it grows faster. As you can tell, it grows very fast and gets to a very big AoE, so we have more room to move around inside the Smoke Bomb itself. And of course we go for the Dark Quiver. This is where a lot of our other damage is going. We have so the way Dark Quiver works is we shoot it, we pick up an arrow, and our next bow attack does more damage. Now obviously we have heavy arrows, added fizz, we have the crit chance so that our arrows are always critting no matter what. And of course we have Archer's Focus. It'll consume mana, just so you know. This does not count towards Hail of Arrows mana cost, so this is consumed, so this doesn't work with everything else, which is sad. But I know why they worded it that way, otherwise it would be pretty busted. And of course we restore 8 mana when we pick up a Black Arrow. And we move down here to Large Quiver, doesn't matter, travel, and we get 90% increased elemental damage with our next bow attack. Since we turned our Hail of Arrows to fire and all of our damage is being converted into fire, it makes it so that we can actually convert all of our damage to fire and get bonuses from this. And now let's talk about the passives here real quick. So for Rogue, we take 8 points into Steady Hand, just a lot of HP and Dex. 2 points into Guile because we needed to travel upwards. Evasion is very strong, as we're always going to be moving when we're shooting Hail of Arrows. And of course we get 5 points into Sapping Strike. That's part of our mana gain. Since Puncture is 0 mana, it will count for Sapping Strikes, which is very strong. And we get 8 points into Critical Precision for more crit chance, so that we actually crit. And of course we put 4 points into Coated Blade, just so you know, this is mana consumed. I'm unsure of whether or not we can put more nodes into this and feel okay. I'm still unsure about that. This is not 100% refined build. There could be still more stuff to be done. Of course, for Marksman here, we grab 5 points into Assassin's Quiver for more physical, which gets converted to fire. 8 points into Elemental Arrows. The way Elemental Arrows work is as you're walking around, you'll get Elemental Arrows, and they give your next attack more LE damage. More flat LE damage specifically. So I'm getting like 48 per time I hit. And of course we have increased bow elemental damage and arrow generation rate. Then we have Siege Quiver, which pretty much caps our LE reses for us. It's kind of weird sometimes. It doesn't update. It's kind of weird. It's kind of bugged in that way. But mainly we're gaining all of our LE res with that. Obviously, you'd want to overcap your LE res just a little bit, just to make sure, so that Siege Quiver doesn't fuck you over. But it's kind of just how it is in the SSF world right now. We have the Elemental Barrage, so it takes 2 extra Elemental Arrows, so that we consume 3, so that we do even more damage. And of course, we have Fire and Steel, which gives us 120% increased damage for when we use an attack with elemental arrows, and makes it so that non-elemental damage, i.e. puncture, will not count towards using an elemental arrow, and will actually generate us elemental arrows, which is very strong. Of course, 1 point into critical wound maker. I'm eventually going to move into heightened sentence and eventually for critical strike multiplier, and we take 10 points into ethereal arrows. Now this note's very specific because, so for instance, I have 99, or we're going to say 100 mana cost, right? This gives me 500% increased damage with my bow, with my hail of arrows. So this is where all of our increased damage is coming from. Absolutely amazing node here. And of course we have mana wrap. Mana wrap increases our mana cost of our bow attacks, but it makes it so that when we use a 0 mana skill, it will 0 mana bow attack, it will give me more, well, any skill actually, yeah, it will give me more mana back. So we're using puncture. I don't know if puncture or shurikens, I don't know what would be the best, but puncture seems to be good so far. Then of course we have master archer here, so that we get the increased hail of area. As you can tell, the area is absolutely humongous. One of the best things about playing this build is the area. Then of course we have the blade dancer tree, 8 points into cloak of shadows because nothing else helps us, 2 points into this so we get a little bit of movement speed, doesn't matter. But then the most important thing, we get shot of dusk, a lot of flat HP, and also gives us a chance to gain dust rods when hit, which is very strong as it gives us more dodge. Obviously, like I said, I don't know specifically how to build rogue the best right now. This is like the 3rd or 4th day the patch has been out, but the concept is there and it's very strong. And I'm also specifically dodging decoy right now because decoy is very strong right now, and it's probably going to receive a few nerfs, so I'm not touching it for now. But if you want to go farther in the arena, I would heavily suggest running decoy. Now, like I said, I was doing way more damage than this. What was I doing? Well, I was utilizing Dark Quiver, and we utilizing this node called Umbral Resolution. Using a black arrow consumes all active shadows and grants your next bow attack more damage per shadow consumed, multiplicative, and then consuming at least 3 shadows grants significantly more damage. So if we have 5 points into this, we had 25% per shadow, so we can have 3 shadows out at once. So if you had 3 shadows out, that's 75% more damage on top of the 100%. So we had 175% more damage, and that's where most of our more damage comes from. So if you want to play with a lot of damage, you want to run this node. And of course, Smoke Bomb, what I would suggest is moving down to Umbral Assault so that you could create shadows. That's what I was doing beforehand, but obviously that isn't as realistic of a idea for a skill or whatever. So obviously, you know, like you can play around with it. I like it. It's just not realistic, but you can do a lot more damage, and it's definitely mono viable when you do that. But for arena, you're not really going to be standing still waiting for your shadows to deal more damage and stuff. Maybe if we had a more reliable way of creating 3 shadows at once somehow, I could see that. I could see something like that. Maybe we find a different way of creating shadows. I'm very unsure, but as of right now, that part of the build is kind of a meme. Now for gearing our idols are actually pretty papega, considering, since we're not taking advantage of the duration of it, which by the way, if you're using duration, you want duration idols, but we have, this is pretty good. I like the leech because it makes it so I don't have to run leech anywhere else. The leech is the first in the second half. Then of course, bow critical strike chance, bow elemental damage. That's pretty much it, all you really want. Bow critical strike chance and bow elemental damage. The idols are pretty poor, in my opinion, for this kind of build, which is a little sad, but it's just how it is. And of course, for a helmet, just trash. Bow, you want flat and crit. I'm unsure of what kind of bow I want. I was trying a Dreadthrone bow earlier, like a good one, but seems like the longbow is beating it out in terms of damage thanks to the flat amount that we get, and since we get crit multi everywhere else, that flat might be strong. So maybe reducing that crit multi and going for even more flat might be the best idea. Now, of course, we're running scale. We're running. You want the dodge base on this, the percentage dodge base, but I rolled this godly chest. By the way, look how much HP I lose when I take this. That's like 400 of my HP right there in one item slot. Very insane. It's kind of what you want, ish, kind of. Because there's no mods that help you. for Hail of Arrows. There's no mods at all. And then of course our Quiver. Quiver, you want the crit multi Quiver, but I'm an SSF. I have to cap my reses somehow. So the Ivory Quiver is very strong for that. We realize that double flat on the prefix is very strong, and of course, you know, res on the suffix. Really nice that you can get reses on the suffixes, by the way. Orion's Eye, any kind of mana stacking build, you really want Orion's Eye, as it makes it so that you have a bigger kind of like, what do you call it, bigger pool of mana, so that you're not constantly always, you know, consuming mana and pumping it back up. So Orion's Eye is always good. Also makes it so that we don't have to build Void Res at all in one, and it's all in one spot. Very nice. And of course, I just kind of went with HP stacking. I'm going to be honest. I think dodge stacking would be much better for this. I was trying HP stacking, and I think it's a failure. Don't HP stack with Rogue. 1500 or less is completely fine. You want as much dodge as possible, as much glancing blow, as much DR as you can handle, because it's better to just not get hit than to have HP for when you get hit, in my opinion. So obviously you want a different belt then. You don't want the dodge belt. You just want like some kind of, you want flat dodge everywhere, obviously. So I was trying to HP stack here. But like I said, it kind of failed. So don't HP stack, just go for dodge. That's pretty much it for the build overall. I think the damage over time might be better, because if you build into duration and have duration everywhere, and you have what you do is you make the biggest, like the heaviest mana cost hail of arrows as possible, and then you utilize the hunt to make the duration more, right? And then after that, you utilize this node where you get blot out the sun, where you get a dust shroud chance when you're sitting, and of course you get even more dust shrouds when, where is it here, in smoke bomb as well, if you just place a smoke bomb down. I think that might be the way if you're going to HP stack, so that you still have access to all your dodge as well. So that's like the duration version. That would be very strong. Obviously for the crit version, you just grab all the damage possible and ignore all this stuff. Although the Condemn, the immobilization, is kind of cool. I've heard that isn't as good as it could be, but it is okay in my opinion. That's pretty much it for the build today. With that being said, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye.